the same thing as the what I sent in the Google Classroom. So it should be the same thing. And you can press run here, and when you run it, okay, so yep, that has to be job. Same development. Okay. So right now I'm just gonna teach you guys how to use coding rooms. So basically coding rooms is just gonna it's like an website where you can run your own code, right? So I have like this Java game project that I sent to you guys. You should be able to open it up and run it. But right now, obviously the code isn't finished because I want you guys to finish it. And yeah. So when you're running it, you should be able to press run. And then there's this button called view desktop that'll show you the visual output. So it'll show you like the game running. But the code isn't finished, so it's not going to run. All right. Okay, so that's I just want to show you guys that really quick. So I'm going to be using that from now on to assign stuff. All right. Let's go back to this. Yes, Grace?
Do you need to log into the coding room?
Yeah, you need to log into the coding rooms. You can just use whatever account you need.
Okay.
To assign.
It's taking a really long time for me.
All right. Okay, let's go back to this. Yeah, this website is a bit laggy sometimes.
Do you need to log into the coding room?
Okay, then is that everything? Yeah, you need to log into the coding rooms. You can just use whatever let me get my account you need.
Okay.
To assign.
It's taking a really long time for me.
All right. Okay, let's go back to this. Yeah, one more website is a bit laggy. I'm gonna go over yesterday's project. Okay, then is that everything? So yeah, you need to log into the coding rooms. You can just use whatever let me get my account you need.
Okay.
To assign.
It's taking a really long time for me.
Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my screen. So this is basically what you're supposed to do for the code. Yeah, one more. You're supposed to. I'm gonna go over. You wanted to add project X to center X and add change Y to center Y. To the coding rooms. So down here you can see that you use the plus equals operator to add change X to change center X. And to add change Y to center Y. You guys can see my screen. So that's all you had to do for this basically what you're supposed to do for the code. Yeah. And for down here, you're supposed to. I'm gonna go over more complicated. So what do you have to do? You have to use a bunch of and add change if and else if statements to see. So down here you can see that you use the key code was equal to up, which is the add change X to change Y. You want to decrease the player change Y to center Y. You guys can see. You want to set it. So that's all you have to do for basically what you're supposed to do. If it's down, you want to increase it by 5. For down here, you're supposed to. I'm gonna go over. You want to increase. So what do you have to do? You have to use a bunch of and add change and else if key code is equal to right, you want to see that you use the key code was equal to up, which is the add change. So you want to. It's kind of similar for the related except that whenever you release something, you just set the change to 0. You don't want it to keep what you're doing. If it's down, you want to increase it by 5. Or down here, this is the code. You want to increase. So what do you have to do? As you can see, when I press up, it's going to go up. Else if key code is equal to right, you want to change it left, right. If key code was equal to up, which is the add change. That was the code. You want to. Kind of similar for the related except that whenever you release something, just set the change to 0. You don't want to keep what you're doing. If it's down, you want to increase it by 5. Or down here. So does anyone have any questions or like concerns about this part? So as you can see, when I press up, it's going to go up. Else if key code is equal to right, any issues at left, right? Don't feel free to message me privately. That was the code. It's kind of similar. So if any of you had like problems or with the code, just writing it 0. You don't want to keep what you're doing. If it's down, you want to increase it by 5. Or down here. So does anyone have any questions or like concerns about what do you mean by that? You can see when I press up, it's going to go up. Else if key code is equal to right, any issues at left, right? Don't feel free to message me privately. That was the code. Okay, so it's kind of similar. So if the code was to write or with the code is writing it, you press function so that when you press any of the arrow keys, does anyone have any questions players move in that direction? So basically, change Y is going to be added to like the center, change x and y to be added to the center x and y. Okay, so and you want to set it for the code was to that press the function so that when you press any of the arrow keys, this thing, just press the button, move forward if you're on. So basically, change y is the one added to like the center. Change x and y to be added to the center x and y. Okay, so and you want to set it for the code. So you just press run, the run button. Okay, you just press the function so that when you press any of the arrow keys, this thing, yeah, it should be in the just press the button, move forward if you're this. So your version should be in the one added here, and if you press run, it should run. Change x and y to be added to the center x and y. Okay, so and you want to set it for the code. Okay, you just press run, the run. Yes, okay. Okay, you just press the function so that when you press any of the arrow keys, this thing, yeah, it should be in the just press the button, move forward if you're this. So your version should be in the one added here, and if you press run, it should run. Oh, yep. Sorry, this is going to be what we're going to be doing today. The one I sent customers is what we're going to do today. Yes, okay. The one I just showed you was from yesterday. So that when you press any of the arrow keys, okay, so in the just so yeah, this is how you finish the code. You just do if the key code is equal to whatever, you change the y and x. Yep, sorry, this is going to be what we're going to be doing. Okay. The one I sent customers is what we're going to do today. The one I just showed you was from yesterday. So that when you press any of the arrow keys, okay, so in the just okay, I'm going to assume that there's two, but if there are, the key code is equal to whatever, you change the y. I'm going to go back to my slideshow now. This is going to be what we're going to be doing. Okay, so the one we're going to be talking about functions, and the one I just showed you was an array yesterday. So a function is a block of code that will run whenever it is called. So the reason to use functions is because if you have to copy and paste everything like a bunch of times, it's a lot easier to just write it once on the slideshow now. Going to be what we're going to be doing. And okay, so to declare a function, what you have to do is and the one I just showed you was an array yesterday. You have to write function static block of code that well you don't have to whenever it's static, but just right now you have to use functions is because if you static have to write and type at everything like a bunch of the functions, a lot easier to just write it once. Function name can be whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you just so to declare a function, what you have to do is write that when you call and the one I just showed you was an array, and then you have to write function. Okay, so this is the return type. So the return type is right now. You have a function, you can return type and everything like a variable the function. And this is the type that returns function name. So since I wrote static and return the type and all that, we have 3 is write that one. But if I were to put like a string and then you have to write, it would not work. It would be okay. So this is the return type. So the return type is you have a function return type and everything like a variable the function. So the type that when you type function name, so since I wrote static, that has to be return type and all that. We have 3 is write that one. But if I were to put like a string, so there is one more. It would not return type. Okay, so it's called void. And if you look up return main actually is the void basically means that you don't return anything. So it executes whatever you type function name, but it doesn't return type that has to be or like just any variable. All that. We have 3 is write that one. But if I were to put like a string, so there is see that in our main function we don't return anything. We don't have a return. It's called void. And if you look up return main, we had like an int or something. So void basically means that you would have to return anything. So it executes whatever you type function name, but it doesn't return type that has to be okay, yeah, good question. So all that. We have 3 is write that one. But if I were to return any type of variable, so it can be like character, string, we had like int or something, double, basically it's just whatever type of just whatever type of variable, but it doesn't return. Okay, yeah, good question. So we have 3 is write that one. But if I were to return any type of parameters are going to be passed to the function called void. And when you define a function, you need to write what type of variable double. So just don't need to write that type when you call it. Just whatever type of variable. But it doesn't return. So if I were to have my function here, parameters are basically just the variables that you can access within the function. Parameters are going to be So I could get like character, int, when you define by int, you need to write what type of variable it is. So just don't need to write that type when you call it, just whatever type of variable it is. So I would just have that right here. So what these are just variables that are just that you can access within this parameter. So when I call it, I have to match the parameter. So when I call my function, right now it has an int and a character. So you do a integer and then a character when you call it, just whatever type of variable it is. But only then will it be like not a character right here. So what these are just variables that are just like, and then when you're in the function, so when I call it variables, I do whatever I want. So I can just say like, so when I call my term, right now it has an int and a character. So you do this and then a character out just whatever type of variable. Like only then will it be like not a character right here. So what these are just variables that are just like, and then when you're in the function, so when I call it variables, I do whatever return. So I can just returns I call my term and it prints out right now it has an int and a character out this and do this and then a character out just whatever type of variable. Like only then will it be like not a character right here. So what these are just variables that are just like, and then when so since my function returns variables, my return actually just returns it's gonna print out my card and it's gonna print out the out this and do run it see a whatever type of variable. Like only then will it be like not a character right here. So what these are just variables that are just like, so since my function returns so those are what parameters are. My parameters are just variables that are packed. It's gonna print out my card and it's gonna print whatever you want out this and do run it see a whatever type of variable. So arrays are a way to store multiple variables within a variable. So arrays can only hold one type of variable, and you can declare by adding brackets to the parameter. But when you create it, then it must initialize it out with the size. And you can't change the size after it's been created. So if I arrays, let's say I want to store like a bunch of numbers. Let's say I want to store numbers from 1 to 10. Arrays can only hold one type of variable, and you can declare by adding brackets to the parameter. But when you create it, then it must initialize it out. So I could just declare multiple integers. I could do like int num1 is equal to 1, and then int num2 is equal to 2. So keep going. Let's say I want to store, that would be a lot of work. Let's say I want to store the numbers to access all the numbers. Arrays can only so an easier way to do this would be to make an array. So to make an array, what you'd have to do is you have to do int. So I can just declare multiple integers. I can do like an array num1 type of name of the variable and say num equal to 2. So equal to. Let's say I want to store and that's a lot of work. Let's say within arrays to have to declare the size. Like it won't work if you don't declare the size. So you can declare it by array. When signing it, you have to do int. So I can just declare signify that it's 1, 2, 3, num1 type of name of the variable and say num. I can do that. That'll give it a lot of size. It knows how arrays to declare. Or if you don't know what variables are, you can just do like so. You can declare a new array in signing it and then do put the size of the 1. Signify that it's 1. So here I can know what type of name of the variable and say num. I can do that. That'll give it how to declare the size. It knows how arrays to declare. Or if you don't know what variables are, yeah, you cannot. So you cannot modify array size and declare. So if I wanted to make like a 1 to 11 instead, but I declared it 1 to 10, well, I'm out of luck because I can't change it. I can do that. That'll give it how to. So you want to have like an idea of how many elements you're going to need. If you don't know store, so before you write this, so you cannot modify array size and declare. That's it. I wanted to make like a 1 to 11 instead, but I declared it 1 to 10. Well, I'm out of luck because I can't change it. So if we were to go back to this, that'll give it how to. So our array consists of an idea of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, store. So before you, so if we want to access them, all we have to do is type num. That's it. Then use the brackets. Now put what the index of where I want to use them. So let's say if we want to get full range. So if we were to go back to this, So let's print that out. So you want to have a system of an idea of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 store, right? So before you, so if we want to access them, all we have to do is type num, that's it, then use the brackets. Now what the index of where I want to use them. So let's say, so it's going to print out 4. And now it may look a bit weird, but in Java, arrays are 0 index. So that just means that they start counting all we have to do is type num. So this number is actually the 0 element. Sorry, first, so let's say so on. Right? It's going to print out 4. That's the element that may look a bit weird. So when we say we want the third element, that's actually this 0 index. So that just means that they start counting all we have to do confused easily. So this number is actually the 0 element. Arrays are 0 first, let's say so on. Right? It's going to print out 4. That's the element. Now what happens if we want to set the third element, like an element, to something else? Well, then we can just do num to 0. We get we want to get the element, like the index already want to choose. So let's say we want to change 3 to so on. Right? It's going to say we want to change that to 3. Now what happens if we want to set a big number, say 16 element, we can just set it like a normal, then we can just do, you just reference it with this, you put the index, you want to get the element, you like the index already want to some other. Let's say we want to change. Now they have to be the same type, so it has to be an int in this case. It can't be want to change that to 3. Now what happens if we want to set a big number, say 16 element, you just set it like a normal, then we can just do, you just reference it with this, you put it's going to print out 16, whereas before this, and then you like the index print out. Let's say we want to change. Now they have to be the same type, so right. And you can also do other operations with it as well. You can plus equal it, all right? If we wanted to plus equal it, we could do that. We could subtract, we can multiply, we can, it's just another like variable. It's just stored inside of an array. Okay, any questions? No questions? Okay. Oh, I almost forgot to mention. If you want to find the length of an array to see the size of it, what you're going to want to do is you want to type the name of the array and then just do dot length. And then that should be the size of an array. So if I put that in here, that's going to print out the size of the array. So yep, we have 10 items in here. So the size is going to be 10. Right, so that's how you use an array in Java. All right. Okay. Now there's one more thing that I think you guys should know. It's called an array list, and it's very similar to arrays since they also store multiple variables of the same type. But the difference is that you can add and remove items from an array list, and you don't need to declare the size immediately. So remember our arrays, we have to declare the size somehow. So either we can just set all the elements here, or we can just like do new int and declare it this way. But when we have an array list, we don't need to worry about that. So the syntax to create an array list is array list. And then we type what type it is within the what are these called? The greater and, well, these pointing things. So let's say integer. And then we do nums. Let's just comment this out. Let's do that. Actually, let's nums is equal to new array list integer. And then, yeah. So this is how you create a new array list. And it's a lot weirder than a normal array. So let's break it down. So this is like kind of type it is. This is how the code knows that you want to create an array list. And this is the type it is. So you're going to want to put like the full version. So int is not going to work. You can't put array list int here. This is just the name of the variable. And we do new array list integer, and then we have parentheses over here. So notice in here, we don't have to declare the size. There's no number to indicate what size it is. And what we can do with that is we can declare what it is, then we can add stuff later. So if we go here, here's some operations you can do with an array list. So to get an element, you can use .get. To add an element, you can use .add. To change an element, use .set. To remove an element, use .remove. And to get the size, use .size. So let's use this nums example again. So right now, our array list is empty. So if I were to like print it out, it would be empty. Right? There's nothing in it. But I can do .add to add stuff to it. So I can do, let's say, I don't know, what's a good number? 5. Save that. Then we can run it. And then we can add even more by it. We can do this, copy and paste this a couple times. Let's do 6, 7. That's not 7. But if we run it now, we can see that it prints out 5, 6, 7, 8, just in the order that we added. So when you do .add, it adds the new number to at the end of the array list. So okay, so the code classroom code is it's in the Google Classroom. So you can just check that. Okay. What else was I gonna add? Oh yeah, .set. So .set basically edits one element of a variable or of the array list. So you have to use the index here. Let's do 0. And then we can set it to, I don't know, set like let's do 10. So what .set does is it changes a variable. What did I just, okay. It changes one of these elements, and that element is going to be 0. So we're going to run. And we can see that the first number was originally 5, but we used .set and we changed the 0 indexed item to 10. So now we have an array list of 10, 7, 8. Okay. And if we want to delete an item, we can do nums.remove the element. So like the index. So let's remove index 1, and that should be this number. So it should remove 7 from our array list. And if we look at it, yep, indeed, 7 has been deleted. Okay. Oh yeah. If we wanted to get a specific element of an array list, we would have to use .get, and we just put whatever index of the array list we want. So let's say we want to get this first element, like the one at the index 1, and we should get 8. So yep, see, it returned 8. And finally, to get the size of an array list, what we do is we do .size. So .size will just return how many elements are within the array list. So right now it only has 2 numbers because one of them was deleted. So that's just going to be 2. If I were to get rid of this, we can see that it would be 3. right? Okay, so those are array lists. Next we have loops. So loops are useful because if we want to repeat a certain bit of code a lot of times, it's really annoying if you have to copy and paste it over again. So let's say I wanted to like, let's say I wanted to write system.out.println hi. Let's say I just wanted to write this over and over and over again. It would be really annoying if I had to do this, right? Oops, I didn't mean to press that. Yeah, it'd be really annoying if I had to do this however many times. So what we can do is use loops. So loops just repeat an action until you want it to stop. So there are two types of loops, while loops and for loops. So first let's talk about the while loop. So while loops execute some code until a condition is false. So there are two versions. I'm just going to explain the first one for now. So to write a while loop, all you have to do is while a condition, do whatever is in the brackets. So let's just say we had an integer I is equal to 0. Let's just say that for now. And then what we can do is we can do I is less than 5. So while this is true, do whatever is inside of the parentheses, or not parentheses, sorry, these curly brackets. So let's just do I++. And let's do system.out.println hi. So what's going to happen in this program is that it's going to create a variable I, which is equal to 0. And while I is less than 5, it's going to increase I by 1. And it's going to print out hi. So how many times do you guys think hi is going to be printed out? Well, if we run the code, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't even, it's kind of annoying because, right? So it's going to be printed out 5 times. Because what happens is every time, oops, every time it runs through the program, I is increased by 1. So first it's 0. It's going to be true. It's going to increase by 1. And then it keeps repeating until it gets to 4, right? 4 is still less than 5. I is increased by 1. But 5 is not less than 5. 5 is equal to 5, but not less than it. So it's going to be false, and then it's going to exit. So it's only going to happen 5 times. So that's what a while loop is. It's going to repeat the stuff inside the curly brackets until this function, or until this condition is false. So if we wanted to make an infinite loop, we could do while true, because true is always true. This is going to run forever. If we can look, it's going to go on forever. Okay, I'm going to stop it because it's not good to have anything run forever. All right. So that's the first version of a while loop. There's actually a second version, which is do while, but it's really similar. So let's get rid of this. By the way, here's how you do large comments. So if you want to comment out a big chunk of code, you can use this. So slash asterisk, then do asterisk slash, then that will comment it out. Okay, so here's how you do a do while loop. So do, and then while something, right? So, yep, you put the code that you want to run in here. So let's copy this thing again. While I is less than 5. If we run this, we can see that they actually run, right? Right, it'll still run 5 times. Oh. And what the main difference between this and this is that this one executes what's in here first. So in our first while loop, it first checks if the condition is true, then it runs what's inside of the curly brackets. But in our do while loop, it first runs the code, then it checks whether or not this is going to be true or not. So if it's true, it'll repeat again. But if it's false, it just ends. But this will always execute at least once. So it's a pretty minor difference. And you could pretty much, yeah, you can pretty much do basically the same thing with them, right? You can even do you can turn a while loop into a do while loop just by changing the variables a bit, but. So that's a while loop. Any questions about while loops? Okay. So next we have one more type of loop. So this is called a for loop, and it's kind of complex, more complex compared to a while loop. Okay, so I'm gonna clear up this a bit. So a for loop is a bit more complex. In a for loop, we have 3 statements, and then we have the code that you want to repeat a lot of times. So statement 1 here is going to be executed once before the rest of the code. Statement 2 is going to be a condition that is checked every time the code loops. If it's true, the code will continue running. If it's false, then the for loop will end. And then statement 3 is an operation that will occur every time the code loops. So let's write a for loop over here. For int I is equal to 0. I is less than, let's say, 10, and I plus plus. And then we can do system.out.println, say hi again. So if we run this, it's going to say hi 10 times. So basically what it's doing is first, it's creating a variable I and setting it to 0. And then once they have that, they're going to compare it to 10. And if it's smaller than 10, it's going to continue the loop. So since this is true, it's going to loop and it's going to do this to the variable. So it's going to add 1 to I, and it's just going to keep on doing that until I becomes 10 and this is false. Then it exits the loop because the loop is ended, right? Because this is false, the loop ends. So I is actually a variable that you can use within the for loop or within the code here. So we could actually just type I, not O, I, there we go. And then if we run, we can see that it prints out all these numbers. So down here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And notice that it doesn't print 10. It only runs the middle code, like the code inside the brackets, when this is true. And since 10 is not less than 10, that's going to be false and it's not going to execute it. So, okay, any questions about this?
No.
Okay. So now I'm going to show a couple of uses. So here's a way we can combine elements, combine what we just learned. So let's say we have an array. So let's say we have an array of integers. And we have, let's have it called nums again. And let's make it int, let's have 10 units in it. Okay. Oops, I forgot to type new. Okay. So let's say we wanted to set each of the elements within it to some number, to a number, okay? Because we don't want to go like int, I don't know, 0 is equal to 1 or something. We don't want to copy and paste that like 10 times. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a for loop and repeat it. And since I increases every single time, we can use that to set each variable of I to something. So we can set it to like, let's say 3. That's because 3 is a nice number. And then we'll do okay, yeah, that's my bad. You can't print out arrays like that. Okay. So we can see that all of the elements are going to be 3. So with this, we can we have a for loop, and every time I increases, it's gonna, or every time this loops around, it's gonna set the value of I, like the index I of nums, to 3. And then once you have that, it's gonna print it out. So that's why we got 3 in the chat like 10 times in the console, I mean. But what if we had like a different, like a larger size? Like what if this changes? Well, the cool thing about this is that we don't have to declare like the same, we don't have to like write the number. We can do nums.length, because remember, this just returns the size of this thing. And no matter what the size of this now, it's always going to return everything within the, it's going to return everything within like the nums array to 3, right? So just going to do that operation on every single element within nums. And you can do the same with an array list as well. So let's do array list integer. Let's just call it equals new array list integer. And then you use the parentheses. Well, for this one, remember the size of, okay, so for this one, since array list doesn't have like, it doesn't have a size yet, array.size is not going to return like it's going to return 0 because there's nothing in it right now. But if we were to add like, I don't know, r.add, just say 0, and then we can copy and paste this a couple times. If we wanted to set everything within array list, this array list to a number, we can just do array.size, and then we can do array.set, and then I, and then we can set it to whatever number we want. So let's say 5. And then we can print this out. We can print out array lists like that. So if we run this, it's going to print an array list of just 5s because we looped through every single element in our array list and we set it to 5. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'll take that as no questions. One thing I want to talk about before we get on with the game part is objects. So right now I'm just going to introduce this. So when we have another class like this, you can have variables in it. And then when we create a new object, let's say like class 2. So don't worry about like this part for now. This is just like another type of variable. So when we have an object like this, if there's a variable within this object, so this variable var1 is equal to 1, we can access it by doing you can type the name dot var1. So that's how you can get the variable from another object. So this is on the like the Java game, and I think it stumped a couple of you, so that's my bad. I didn't let you guys know about this. So we print this out. It should say 1. Yep. So that's how you access a variable of a different class, like a different object. So for example, in here, when we had a sprite class, we can see that there are the integers, or the float, sorry, center X and center Y. The way to access that would be to just do the object, which is called player dot, then whatever variable. So we can do like player dot change, player dot center X, anything like that. So that's just what I wanted to talk about briefly before we get to the game. Okay, so any concerns, any comments, any questions? So yeah, just any questions at all, just feel free to ask me. Like even if even during the lesson.
So just to make sure, there's 2 kinds of loops, right?
2 types of arrays.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have the regular arrays like this. And then we have array lists. Oh, this one should be int. So yeah, there are 2 types of arrays that we can use. When do we? Okay, so when do we use the different types of arrays? Good question. So for this one, we want to use the normal arrays. Usually when like we know the amount of like it's a set amount of variables, right? Because we can't change it. So we want to use this one usually when we know it's like a set amount. And this one, it's just if you need to change it at all, you can use this one because you can add and remove stuff from it. Okay, any other questions? No questions? All right then. I'm going to open I'm gonna open lesson 2. Okay, so this is gonna be part 2 of our game. Okay, so yeah, let me open the key. That was not the key. So now that we've programmed moving, what we want to do is have it so that when we have a bomb, if we touch the bomb, we're gonna reset the game. Okay, so this is what the key looks like. Now, if I open the other one, this is the file that's on coding rooms right now. So right now we can go through the bomb and nothing happens, right? So to have it reset when we touch the bomb, what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to write a function called collides that checks if 2 sprites are touching or not. And the way to do that, can you just copy the current code and paste it into the chat? Oh, you mean, are you on coding rooms right now? Okay, so right now the coding rooms code isn't complete, so I'll upload something really quick. But I think you have to. Okay, yeah. I'll like upload something to coding rooms in a moment. But okay, so back to this. Right now, we need to write a function that's called collides, and it should take 2 sprite variables as parameters. So here, I'll give you guys a bit of a hint. So it should return true if two sprites are touching and false if two sprites are not touching. So what we should do is we do the return type. So we do Boolean, and then we type the name. So let's just name it collides. And then we have to do our parameters. So our variables should be of the type sprite. So we can do sprite, and then we can give one a name, but there should be two of them. So let's do another one, sprite s2. So this is what the function should look like. And somewhere inside of this function, we got to have return true if they're touching, and we need to have a return false if they're not touching. Okay. So I'll leave it to you guys to figure out how to make the code, but I've provided a couple hints in the comments. Okay. Now there's one more part to this. So I also want you to, so I've created a bomb object, and that's the thing that you see in here. Oops. If I just delete this right now. So you can see that I've created a bomb object for you guys. So I want to test whenever, like every single like frame, I want to test if these two objects are touching or not. So right now, obviously they're touching, but nothing's happening. So we have to test it in the draw function. So in here, we had to write an if statement so that if if the bomb and player collides, then it calls the game over function. So just call this function, and we call it like this. So game over, parentheses, and then our colon, semicolon. So you put this here, and yeah, that should call the game over function. But you only want to write game over if it touches, if the player and the bomb touch. So, okay. Any questions about this? I'm gonna pause my share because I'm gonna try to upload the files to coding rooms. How do I add? Okay, I'm gonna need to upload all these files. Okay, can you guys see the assignment I posted on coding rooms? Like other than the one I posted earlier? You can't see, okay. Let me save change. Okay, I assigned it. Can you guys see it? So let me share my screen again. So on the
Yeah.
coding room site, you should be able to see Java game in lesson 1 key. So if you open this, I can't see it because I'm like the instructor for this like thing. So you're gonna see a screen that kind of looks like this, I think. And then if you want to run it, you're gonna have to press run here. And then you should be able to see see it that like the program when the view desktop tab. Oh, okay, I think I opened the wrong one. Okay, so yeah, hang on, let me change that. Okay. Um, I think it should be visible now. So, yep, I'll post the slides after class ends. Okay, so I think we only have a couple more minutes. So are there any final questions or like anything you want to ask about the class, anything like that?
No.
Okay. See. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to go and
Excuse me,
explain.
can you give me the join code for Google Classroom?
Oh yeah, of course. So I'll post it in the, let me copy I'll just give you the link. I'm gonna put it in the Zoom chat.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We're a bit under time, but I think that should be fine. So we're a bit under time. So thank you guys for coming today. If you have any like other issues or problems, you guys can come, you can wait in chat and ask me, but yeah, today was a bit short. Oh yeah, one more thing. So on Friday, if possible, we're probably gonna end around 15 to 20 minutes early because I have something that's gonna go on at 1 and I need to be ready for that. So on Friday, we're gonna start the same time, but we're gonna end like 20 minutes, 15 minutes early, right? So next week on Tuesday, I'll probably make that class maybe a bit longer. But yeah. So on Friday, I'm gonna make the class like shorter by 15 minutes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you for teaching us. Bye.
Okay, so do you guys have any questions or problems with the problems that you need help with? Okay, if there's nothing, no other issues or problems, I'm gonna end the call. Actually, I'll just leave the meeting. Do you need anything, Jason?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right, thanks for joining. Okay, that should be all. I'm gonna leave the meeting then. Bye, guys.